Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for this Donorbox and Appeal Maker webinar. My name is Jena, and I'm the nonprofit advocate here at Donorbox, and I'm joined by Cara, our fundraising coach here at Donorbox, and Joe Leach, and we're going to give him a good introduction in just a second. But for those of you who are not familiar with Donorbox, we provide nonprofits with simple and effective tools to manage their fundraising activities and connect with donors on a deeper level. To date, we have helped 50,000 organizations from all around the world raise over $1 billion in donations. So to learn more, you can visit us on our site at donorbox.org. Easy enough to remember. And again, today we are joined by Joe to talk about the top 10 direct mail hacks for nonprofits. I know that this is a hot topic for all of you. So Joe Leach is the owner of Appeal Maker, a software-based direct mail suite that offers easy, affordable, and effective direct mail production from start to finish for organizations of all sizes. Joe's company, Bliss Direct Media, has been helping nonprofit organizations with direct mail and data analysis for over 20 years and has been in the direct mail industry for over 30. He loves helping clients at all stages, from beginners to seasoned vets, accomplish their direct mail marketing goals year after year. So welcome, Joe.
Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. I'm very happy to be here.
We're excited to have you.
I will say to everybody, I've only done a few webinars, so don't be afraid to make some notes about if I could do this differently or that differently, or speak up more.
We have seen Joe present in person, and we were furiously taking notes. We were really excited. So have your notes ready. Have your Word doc open, whatever that may be. It's going to be a good one, Joe. I'm not worried about it. Now, before I pass the baton over to Cara and Joe, I want to mention just a couple of items. Please note that, yes, this webinar is being recorded, and all registrants will receive the recording the link for the recording after the webinar via email. So keep an eye out for that. And please feel free to drop questions in the chat box throughout the webinar, and we'll be sure to track those and answer as many as we can at the end during our Q&A. We'll also be sharing a couple of helpful links and polls throughout the webinar, so please participate in those as well. We want there to be a lot of engagement, so go ahead and type questions, make remarks, and we'd love to see those in the chat. So without further ado, I'm going to take myself off stage, and Cara and Joe, I'm going to leave it to you.
Thanks, Jena.
Thanks, everyone.
And I am grateful to be here. And Joe, thanks so much. Jena is right. We met Joe at the Association of Fundraising Professionals International Conference in May. And I was instantly drawn to the booth for Appeal Maker because I felt that they offered a product that I had been looking for different organizations I've worked with over the years. And as Jena mentioned, I furiously took notes during his presentation. And so I'm excited that we get to share this presentation with you all today too. And why are we doing that? Well, it's 2022, it's almost 2023, and direct mail is dead and has been completely replaced by online appeals, right? Absolutely not. Absolutely not, friends. Online giving has not replaced direct mail giving. And in fact, I think you would be surprised to learn that only 13% of gifts received by nonprofit organizations come in online. And so many organizations are relying on direct mail. In fact, recent months, many nonprofits reported their best mail campaign results ever. So now is a great time, maybe more than ever, to revisit direct mail. And the thing that is really great about direct mail is that it typically receives about a 5% average response rate. I know Joe's going to show us some hacks that's going to boost that response rate for us. And that 5% is still about 20% higher than digital outreach, email and social media. Direct mail is performing better. And there are some really great tips, like I said, that will boost those performance rates, and Joe's going to share those with us. But first, I want to spend a second on what is direct mail. What do we even mean when we talk about direct mail? We're talking about any printed, physical mailing that's sent out through the Postal Service, meaning USPS, Canada Post, Royal Mail. I saw a visitor here from New Zealand. And so what are some examples of direct mail? Why don't you go ahead and just put those in the chat right now? What do you think are some examples of direct mail? Let's see what you think. Postcards, love it, Heather, yes. Postcard ads, Requests for donations. Ooh, I love it. Holiday cards, printed newsletters, Thanksgiving letter, yeah. Grocery coupons, that's a good one, I love it, yes. Invitations, thank you notes, Jennings, awesome. Rat cards, yeah, absolutely. Those are all really good examples. And many businesses, retail especially, really depend on direct mail. And nonprofits, I always say, can learn a lot by looking at the retail sector and what they're doing well. And nonprofits who are really good at raising money are focusing on direct mail. And when you look at the big nonprofits, the revenue generated from direct mail can really cover those general operating expense budgets. And direct mail is powering their mission and keeping their lights on. So these would be the organizations that are really setting the curve as far as fundraising. They rely on direct mail. Many organizations, I hear this all the time, say, hey, direct mail is outdated, or it's invasive, or it's just not where we want to invest our time and money, because it can be an investment. But when we poll, the Direct Marketing Association polled Americans, and 70% of Americans say that snail mail, US mail, is more personal than email. And I think that some of these hacks that Joe's going to show us is going to really show how we can personalize and improve our direct mail efforts for the best response. So Joe, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you very much. Wow, that was great. You are correct. Another piece of evidence that direct mail is hot and is having an impact is that I think many of you have ordered envelopes lately, and maybe had your printer or your envelope supplier say, "We don't have any. We're out." So there's a paper shortage, but it was compacted by the fact that the capacity in the envelope converting world also hit its maximum, and we've struggled to get product, and a lot of people had shared that with us. So, all right, so here's my deal. I'm not going to try to sell anything to you today. I really want to. So Cara and I were just talking before, and it turns out, I didn't realize this, but her parents were teachers, and my dad was a teacher. My dad thought about things in a different way. And one of the things he used to always say was, we're not, in terms of school, we're not teaching kids how to learn. We're teaching them things. We're teaching them facts and figures. We're teaching them to memorize things. We're not teaching them to think, and we're not teaching them to learn. So with that said, I've got some clever little hacks to show you, things that have worked for us, that you can go and steal all these ideas and use them to your heart's desire. And I do hope that they increase your response rates exponentially. But more than anything, I would like you to think about and I'll try to talk about the psychology of the hack and why it works. And then to try to use sort of an applied learning where you say, well, you know how when you learn something, you always learn how, this whole learning to learn thing. When you learn something, you kind of open up a pathway to thinking, and it just expands to, I can apply that idea, in a different way and come up with something else. So try to think about the root and the reason why these things might work. And like I said, I'll try to tell you what I know about it. And in many cases we do, in other cases we don't. But so anyway, just a real quick background about me. I've been in the business for a very, very long time. I started with a big commercial printer that had just started to get into direct mail as one of its main focuses. And so we were just a production facility for the most part. People came to us, said, here's my files, here are my names, put the names on the pieces of paper and stuff the envelopes and send them out. And so that's how I cut my teeth in the industry. So I was there for about 9 years, and the company had grown to a very, very large size during that time. And a lot of the fun had kind of gone away for me, because as they grew, they necessarily had to say, well, let's have everybody do a more focused job. And that wasn't the way I operated. So I started a company with what I thought was, a great idea. It was a direct mail company. We were going to focus on smaller, more focused type mail. And after about 2 years, it was not working. And I had realized that this great idea of mine just wasn't going to work. I always like to say I was ahead of my time, but the reality was it wasn't a good idea. But I really wanted to start a business. So here I found myself there, and the universe, for some reason, delivered a few key clients. They literally things just happened, contacts were made, and I was back in the world of big run direct mail. And again, I credit the universe for that. But one of those clients, well, it wasn't huge, but they were critical for the future for Bliss Media and Appealmaker, and it was a hospital foundation. And this hospital foundation came to me and said, we were learning about these things called grateful patient mailings. If we have any healthcare organizations with us today, they know exactly what I'm talking about. And the beauty in the healthcare industry is that you have a warm list of clients, or a warm list of prospects to reach out to and to let them know about your foundation, your organization, and all the great things you do. And it helps because there's a familiarity, basically. So response rates are generally a lot better in those cases. So we basically, me and this person from the foundation together figured out how to do a grateful patient mailing, kind of from scratch. I mean, looking at information that was out there, obviously. Wrote the letter ourselves, did everything. It was the first time I think I'd done like a full service direct mail campaign. And so one of the things, I'm going to get to it here. I've got one. I should have been more organized. I apologize. I want to talk about hacks real quick. I always joke that when I first did the presentation at AFP, I looked up the definition of hack, and it started off with cut with rough or heavy blows and use a computer to gain unauthorized access to data in a system, which didn't sound like very positive things. But then I looked further, and I realized, and I found another much more palatable definition for the purposes of our presentation: a clever or elegant accomplishment. So jumping back to my story, I wanted very badly to do something that would have an impact. And so I racked my brain about direct mail and all the direct mail advice I had read or gotten from people in the industry. My customers, actually, from my previous job, was all about having it be authentic and making it seem like it was coming from a person and not a company. And I thought this particular mailing couldn't have been a better example to find something that would do that. So I had just gotten a letter in the mail myself from, I think it was like an insurance agency or something, where the agent, and this was legitimate, it wasn't a direct mail, had put their name above the corporate logo. And the purpose was that if for some reason it didn't get to me, he didn't want it to go back to the company and then nobody knew who sent it, right? So they wanted to know exactly who sent it. And I thought, that seems pretty personal to me. So that was the first thing that we did. This is the first time I tried to hack a direct mail package in my life. I didn't even know what I was doing. I was just trying to be clever, I guess. As short a story as I can make out of this, the campaign was very, very successful. We managed it for a few years. A customer service person internally had taken it over and was managing on a day-to-day basis. And one day the director called and said, "Hey, our response rates aren't what they used to be. Can you come over and see what is going on?" And a new person had also been, as the campaign manager had changed. So I went to meet them for the first time, and I sat with them, and I was looking at the package, and that was not there anymore. And I said, I suppose somebody in corporate didn't like, it was probably a branding problem that they took the signature off. And he said, "What signature are you talking about?" And I said, "The signature above the return address." He said, "I have no idea what you're talking about." And the new person said, "I don't know what you're talking about either." And I said, when did this change? And so we were looking through things. "Oh, it changed here." "When did the response rates drop?" "Oh, right about that same time." So we put it back on, and the response rates essentially went back to what it was. So I have some at least anecdotal evidence that this hack works. So here we go. On to hack number 2. The other thing I will tell you is that we've got 2 versions of hacks here. We've got mechanical hacks, like practical ones, and then I've got some strategy hacks, which are more like kind of life hacks, I guess, would be a good way to do that. Should I answer questions now? What is the best way to do this? Okay. But I will get to everybody, I promise. And I'll stay as long as anybody lets me. So just so you know. All right. Hack number 2 is doing this mailer's postmark. I do feel like we were one of the early adopters of this, but this isn't just our company thing. This is something that the post office allows your mailing company to do, and your mailing company can do this. The reason we do this, for people that aren't familiar with the way postage works, typically you would put a permit box there that says nonprofit postage paid by permit or organization, and it looks like business mail. And so somewhere along the way, the post office said, if you want to put a stamp on it, you can do that. We'll sell you stamps to do that, but we're not gonna cancel the stamp like we normally do, because a real letter has an ink-jetted cancellation over it. So for years, we would send out mail with just a kind of a bare or naked stamp. And it would work, it was better, but after a while, people still saw that it was different than first class mail coming through. And so somewhere along the way, this came about, and it works great. It helps to make it seem a lot more authentic. That is the point, even back to the first hack, is that if you can, when people get their mail, they ask a lot of questions that they don't even know they ask, right? Deep down inside, they're saying, who sent this to me? Why did they send it to me? What are they going to ask me to do? Because they know that there's a reason in there, and they're asking themselves, is this legitimate? So there's a number of ways that we try to get them to open the envelope. So from that standpoint, if you're going to leave, or when you leave today and you say, I really want to come up with my own idea, think in those terms. Just think in terms of, how can I make this more authentic and genuine? Okay, on to hack number 3. So we get rid of these processing marks. This thing is called a endorsement line. This is something the post office has done for years, and as a little secret, us mailing companies actually like it too. Because when we are processing the mail on the end and we're trying to sort it into the different trays that it's supposed to go into, this makes it very, very easy for the operators to do this. Well, when I started the company, I already knew that that was another deterrent to things looking authentic. And so we studied all the post office manuals and said, do we have to have this? And in most cases, we found out the post office would say, well, you don't have to have it, but we'd really like you to have it. And so we try to never put it on. And the people that do the sorting in the back would love very much to have it, but they've learned to live without it, because I tell them every day that we get more customers by not doing it. So, and then these are sequence numbers. Now, I have to say that we are guilty of sequence numbers sometimes when we are matching a handwritten piece on the outside to a printed piece on the inside. Our cameras can't always read this font. And so there might be a little bit of a code somewhere here and on the letter. We try to minimize it everywhere we can. But this is hack number 4, which is do something clever like hide it underneath the stamp. So the stamp goes on, in this case, after we've inserted it and we know it's safe. We know that that Jane's matched up with Jane's, and we're in no danger of sending the wrong piece to somebody else. So look at that. We blew through. Oh, I got the wrong number there. I got 2 hack 3s. I'm so sorry about that. This is really hack 4. I think we're going to be off. Sorry about that. All right. Barcodes. Now, it's very common for people to send mail with barcodes, even if they send it from their own desk. It doesn't really surprise people. But there are 2 places that you can put the barcode according to the post office. You can put it in the address block, and then there's like little templates you can get that show you like what that area consists of. Or you can put it down in what they call the lower right position. Now, this one has a lot less leeway for how much you can. You can't see my mouse. I'm sorry. I'm drawing where your attention should go to. I apologize. The second picture has the barcode in the lower right. That is more like the post office putting it on for you, which again looks more authentic. So if you can, don't put the barcode in with the address block. Have your mailing company put it down in that lower right position. Does that make sense? Okay. Hack number 5. This is another one that I learned in my previous life. I had a big client that did this, and I remember saying to them, it would be a lot easier if we just had it perfed at the bottom, and we didn't have to do this fold or we didn't have to put the 2 pieces together. And so that person explained to me that they do that so that when the person opens up the mail, that the card, and see in the picture number 1 how it's nested in there. It's not just that it's separate, but it's actually nested inside of that letter. So when they go to open the letter, it falls in their lap. And so the response device, the trigger, they have no choice but to put it in their hand. And human nature is, I'm going to look at that. And we have tested this. And it really lifts response. So you'll want to do that. And there are clever ways in production to do that without having it to be 2 pieces. You can actually make it 1 and fold it and cut it in a way that is not so bad. It's a little bit different to set up the equipment, but not. Your mailing company should be happy to look at something like that. So, okay. Here is an idea, an integrated idea that we put in here because we wanted. I take that back. I'm going to do some selling. I'm going to sell Donorbox right now. I'm not going to sell Appeal Maker. I'm going to sell Donorbox. QR codes are a great idea. The one problem with them is that you may not attribute the response to the mailing, which isn't good because we want to know if the mailing worked or not, right? And so in your Donorbox account, you can actually create a QR code that you just simply download as a ping, and you drop it into your Appeal Maker campaign. And again, you can do this if you're using AppealMaker or not using AppealMaker. But the QR codes are great. And in this way, you can actually set the tracking up so that you know which campaign it actually came from. So there we go. I went back on my word. I did sell. Sorry. Okay. Hack number 6, save the pictures and the fancy stuff for stewardship mailings and even then go easy. I will say of all the hacks, this is the one that I've seen some recent contrary information for. We've had a few campaigns that have gone out with, they've been more graphically embellished as opposed to actual photos with just a lot more color in them. And they've done pretty well. So I don't know, there might be a little bit of a tide changing in this case. We're changing, but particularly for organizations, you're sending a heartfelt letter from one person to another person. And so typically you wouldn't put pictures and things like that in there. So generally speaking, this will work. This will work better. I just saw a note I couldn't resist. Finally, QR codes are working in the USA. That is because you can use your camera. The reason QR codes were before their time is that you had to download a separate app and nobody wanted to do that. Now that they work with all your cameras, yes, they are very convenient. And I don't notice them on billboards anymore, right? Thankfully. Okay, so now we're to the life hacks or the strategy hacks. So now we're just going to talk about different ways of hacking the way you think. Any trick or shortcut, skill or novelty method that increases productivity, efficiency, and success. So this is how we think. And this is one of my favorites. You know how you've been told when you walk, you should always walk on the left side of the road. And you know how deep down inside you really want to walk on the right side of the road because it's just the natural thing to do. Walking on the left side of the road is going to sort of be the theme of a lot of these strategy hacks we talk about. And I just made a few notes here. Remember that you're not the audience, so don't ask yourself, would I respond to this? You know way too much about the mission to be a good judge, of that message. But that's an example. We walk on the right side of the road. We walk where it's comfortable. We say, I want this to be successful, so what resource do I have better than my own opinion of it? And I say, force yourself to walk on the left side of the road in that particular case. A direct mail is different than a letter. A direct mail letter is different than a letter that you'd write to a friend or a business partner. There's lots of great information out there. We just attended a webinar with somebody else, and they talked very much. They had so many ideas for writing good copy. It's out there. Listen to it, and if you're uncomfortable with it, it's probably right. I think that's something to. And again, we're walking on the left side of the road. If campaign seems perfect to you going out, it's probably not going to have very good results. You should have a little bit of. There should be a little bit of this feeling when you're mailing something. And then it says, choose acquisition lists scientifically, not by using your gut. It's very common to say, oh, well, I know that audience is going to respond to our audience. They're the same thing. It's the same kind of person. Direct mail is unpredictable in many cases. So let's go down the road of a few more. Let's see here once. Did I lose my... Cara, I seem to have lost my arrows. Oh, here we go. Sorry about that. Hack number 7, I have to be honest with you, I'm not even sure if we're on the right numbers anymore because we definitely screwed that up at the beginning. Stop reflecting and overanalyzing. If you guys could raise your hand, I'm guessing that 80% of you would have your hand up if you would accuse yourself of reflecting and overanalyzing. Part of that is because it's a big deal. It's expensive. Postage makes a direct mail campaign, a bigger risk, and so you simply don't want to send out something that's not going to work. And so you look over it and look over it and look over it. And sometimes you just got to let go of that and send it out. And getting advice from people who've been successful at something is the best thing you can do. Sometimes, you have to pay for some of those services, but they are almost always well worth it. So, all right, on to, this was just a little extra. We found this somewhere, and it was Mike Dirksen and Build Good. We thought this was so funny. The critique of the poem, Roses Are Red. I'll just leave this up here for a minute, and you guys can read it. And I know that everybody's gone through this. That's another, as you read this, I'll just blab. It's another one of those, you get the courage to do something different, right? You're talking to your agency, maybe you're a direct mail company like us, someone that's, a colleague who's done it before, and they say, yep, the letter's going to sound kind of weird, and it's going to sound third grade-ish, and it's going to be, but trust me, it's going to work. And you get the courage up, and you think, oh, this is great. I'm going to do this. I can't wait for the results. And you show it to somebody in your office, and they just pop the balloon with pragmatism like crazy. So, this is good. I think everybody's had a chance to read this, right? Yeah,
some of the worst performing appeals that I've ever done have been written by committee, and they're kind of quilted together with the wants of everyone, and they were a train wreck on the back end. Yeah. This is great. I love this. It is spot on. It's awesome.
Walking on the left side of the road. Do the right uncomfortable thing. Okay, always do a follow-up. This is most organizations understand this, but particularly with donor mailings, renewal mailings, which always work. They always bring in more than you. I should be careful with always, but the degree of success, and I would even go as far as to say the degree of great success with donor renewal mailings is always worthy of a follow-up. So let me just throw out some basic numbers. Let's say your renewal mailing gets 7%, but and on 7%, depending upon the average gift, your ROI is, it could be quadruple what you spent, right? Easily. It could be you spend $2,000, you get $8,000 back. I'm sure there's many people who are listening right now say, yep, we get that or better. If you do a follow-up and it gets just half of that response, you've still doubled your ROI at 3.5%, right? Response rate. But more than anything, you've retained a donor that you, in most likelihood, you would have lost, because we all know that if a donor looks at something and decides not to give, puts it on the pile, they learn that they don't have to give. They learn this. That's a habit of putting it off. There's a habit that forms, and this is why we think you should mail more often, and this is why we think you should do a follow-up. So they almost never don't work. Did you hear that? They almost never don't work. It's something that we get excited if you are if you subscribe to our email list. I make sure that we send that message out like every fourth email, because it's just one of those things that's good for everybody. Obviously, we like to mail twice as many pieces. But the reality is I feel comfortable telling you to do that, because I have no fear you're going to come back and say, you told me to do something that didn't work. I just don't think that can happen. Let's see, was there another aspect of that I wanted to bring up? I think I covered that. I will be guilty of coming up with something on hack number 8 when we're at hack number 12, so I'll apologize in advance. Okay, this is another one of my favorite strategy hacks. Most people don't think in fundraising that we are sending an offer, and so we like to change this to something else. But these are the 3 most critical parts of probably any marketing campaign at some level, but for direct mail in particular. Who we're sending it to, the creative, or I could have actually called this vehicle. Like, what's the way in which I'm conveying it? Is it on a postcard? Is it in a donor renewal with a little reply slip? Is it in a newsletter? Is it in an envelope? Is it as a self-mailer? Is it colorful? Is it not? This is the vehicle side of things. And then the offer, and we always just say message or something like that for organizations, but you have an offer. You have an offer. You are offering people an opportunity to feel good about themselves. You're offering them an opportunity to participate with you, to combine your powers with their powers. You're giving them an opportunity to make a difference. And I always say to people, if you don't do stewardship, you're not sending the customer the product that you sold them. And so this philosophy is well worth considering as you're doing your direct mail. Think of it and convey it as an offer. What are you offering the person that's going to contribute to your cause? And then, yes, do stewardship mailings and thank and report. This is delivering the product. It sounds a little mean, but if you take a donation and don't ever tell them what their donation did, you're not delivering the product. Is the way that I look at it. And another thing is, it's easy to get caught in the trap of saying, well, we put it on our website, we put it on social media, right? So we tell people what we're doing. And all I'd say was, look at how many visitors you get to your social media relative to how many pieces of mail you sent out or how many donors you have. And you'll see that kind of a ratio, which tells you that you really, need to use mail, whether you use us or not. You really need to use mail, particularly if you gained a donor by mail. Does that make sense? All right. Let's see here once. So hang on. We were at hack number 10. That was it. So that went by fast.
It did. Thank you, Joe. That was really great. And so many good questions throughout, and we will tackle those. Yeah.
I got to interrupt real quick. I guess this might be selling, but I've got this here, a QR code of all things that you can scan. If you wanted to see samples of what the software, what our Appeal Maker product does, just scan this. I'll just leave that up for a while you guys talk, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Thank you very much. I'm actually
really going back on my word.
I'm going to take my sample too. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you guys. I appreciate this opportunity.
Now, before we hop into Q&A, Joe, I know you have a question for everyone.
I had 2 questions that I didn't tell you to ask.
I was so engaged, I even forgot there was going to be a queue. So everybody, please hang tight. We have some goodies for you, and we also have some Q&A. Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, do you want me to, are you going to put the poll up, or what are we going to do? Or do you want to?
Let's see. I think for this one, you know what? Let's get to know you guys a little bit. So, let's go ahead. So, how do you currently produce direct mail for your organization? If you guys could answer that poll for us. And that'll help us guide through Q&A as well, as we get to know you a little bit more.
And while they're answering, Joe, that QR code didn't work for the Appeal Maker samples. So I will, if you have, do you have like a web address that they could a form?
Yes.
If not, we will follow up. We will include it in the follow-up email with the recording. Yes. So keep your eyes open for that link, and and that's how you'll get it. So Joe, don't worry about it right now. We will follow up on the email.
I do have it. I can put it in chat.
That'd be super.
Go for it. And I'll include it in the follow-up email as well. And we have a lot of responses here. So Joe, most folks are doing the direct mail in-house. Mm-hmm. Some folks are using a local mail house. A lot of people, about 22%, are not using direct mail yet. I like that keyword yet. And a couple are using another direct mail agency. So across the board, but majority are doing it in-house, it looks like. So thank you, everyone.
And I told this story to Jena too. I think I've done all of them on the list. And one of my favorite memories is I was doing an in-house mailing for a group I was working with a handful of years ago. And it was over the summertime, and I had my table filled with 8 to 10-year-old girls, and they were all matching and stuffing and matching and stuffing. And it was one of my sweetest memories. So my kids and their friends farmed out the labor. I paid them in cookies.
I'm sure people have done. I would work for cookies as well.
Yeah.
There. So now one more, Joe, and I don't think we had a poll question for this one. I think we're just going to ask the audience. So go for it.
So the most important, the area in which you feel is lacking the most in trying to produce a direct mail campaign, would it be creative and copy? Would it be data analysis? Or would it be just the actual production?
Mm-hmm. That's a tough question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Go ahead and put that in the chat. So what's your roadblock? Is it being creative and writing the copy that converts? Is it mining your data for the right people, or is it the production?
Cara, the data analysis would even extend to knowing the one piece of data that helps the most, particularly if you're acquiring new donors, is your donor lifetime value. Mm-hmm. So even understanding the landscape of the donor database, what is your current retention, lifetime value, those things?
Absolutely. Well, the responses are across the board here, and one, all of the above, couple, all of the above.
Yeah,
I just saw that. Yep,
I'd say it's probably close to 50-50 for creative copy and data. Maybe a few more than the other. We saw a couple people say time. I just need time. And
well, that could fall into the production if you have someone that can help from that standpoint.
Absolutely. So there you go, Joe.
Thanks, everybody.
Now,
I appreciate that feedback very much.
With that, would you like for me to share that link? Or some...
yeah.
Let's do it. Yeah.
I am woefully unprepared as I switch computers.
Well, I've got it preloaded for you, Joe. So I've got you covered. For those of you,
as usual,
for those of you who say you could use a little help with that data, Joe has so graciously offered a 15-minute consultation with him. Joe, you can tell folks a little bit about that. However, we will also be having Joe back for a weekly giving season session about keeping your data clean, data hygiene. So lots of Joe to come. Joe is our new favorite person. So there is that consultation link if you would like to book some time with Joe to talk about that.
Yeah, and just real quick, what it would be, we would talk for 15 minutes about what data you would provide. And I will say right now, it's very simple. It can be as few as 3 fields out of your donor database. And it can be de-identified. I just need a unique donor ID. I don't need the names. I just need a donor ID, basically a gift amount and a gift date. And then we can talk a little bit about adding a few other fields if we want to do some other kind of segmenting. And then if you give me a couple days, I'll go through and create a report that shows you very quickly in one snapshot, donor lifetime value, retention rates, your retention by year to year, those kind of things.
And you have some good calculators on your website too that help with those as well. So yes. Thanks. You guys are see? Yeah, I explored the website. Okay, let's tackle some questions.
Yes.
Kevin's came in first, and this was, Joe, this was a question in response to the executive director or someone's name above the return address, handwritten or printed?
Handwritten for sure, because you want more than anything. If it shows up on in their mailbox and it has somebody's name in blue, preferably, certainly in and we will scan. So in that case, we like to have it match the signature on the letter. So we will scan your director or whoever's writing the letter. We'll scan their signature and put it in both places. Cool. That's part of the software, is that we put it in there immediately, and you can use it when you want it or not.
Excellent. Awesome. Thank you for that. So another question for you: do you still get nonprofit rates with the mailer's postmark?
Yes, you do.
Easy enough. There we go. So a question from Curtis: what about just sending a postcard, bypassing the barrier of opening up the mail? What are your feelings on postcards, Joe?
So if it's with a key, obviously you'd want to put some way for them to give. So postcards are great for stewardship. Postcards are great for awareness. They're great for, and they should be used more often, in my opinion. Again, people want to know what the organization is doing. They want to know where their money is, being used or put to good use. You could do a postcard, however, with a QR code that allowed people, encourage people to give online. So I wouldn't be opposed to it, although we still see the majority of gifts coming in through with the envelope versus the QR code. So I think the money is well worth doing both.
A mailed letter gives you a little more real estate space to tell your story, to get your reader involved in a compelling reason to give, more so than a postcard.
You think of it in terms of purpose. What's the purpose of the message that I'm sending? And then utilize the mechanical part of it appropriately, right? The way that they interact with you. It may be just you want to interact for some other reason than an actual gift. But just think about that.
Absolutely.
Well, that leads into Mary Pat's question of, can a postcard, can it be a post? Oh, that's really kind of the same question, I think. Yeah, same question. Can it be a postcard with online giving?
I appreciate that question, because I think that's a good idea and something we've never done before. But that will be an interesting thing to try.
Absolutely.
Oh, I know what I forgot on hack number 8. What will happen on a follow-up is that you will actually get responses to the first mailing. So you'll send the first mailing, people set it aside, they'll get the reminder, and they will not respond to the reminder. They'll actually go get the original one. So oftentimes you'll see your response.
So you kind of think of them almost as a two-part mailing there. Okay.
Yeah, so thanks to whoever asked that question. You just spurred that.
That's such a good point. Okay, we have another great question from Elaine. As a new organization, would direct mailing be a benefit to us? Okay, so that can be a tricky question. I think when you say new organization, do you have people who are familiar with their organization? Do you have, I like to call them friendlies instead of warm prospects, because that just sounds terrible in my opinion. But do you have friendlies, like people who are familiar with, that you can start with? Those are good to, people to which
to send mail. You can do acquisition mailings. There's lots and lots of acquisition list opportunities out there, so you can find people that are likely to have an affinity to your organization, but you have to understand that those will be the lowest rates you ever get in terms of response rates. They will be the lowest gifts you get, and they will be the most expensive donors that you get. But I'm not saying to not do it, because when we do the reports, and I will admit that the reports are kind of a new thing, so I don't have hundreds to go by, but lifetime values for established organizations are $500 to $1,500. So even if you spent $250 to get a donor, right, there's some logic that says you can make that work. Every organization, depending upon what else is going on, might look at that differently, but that's why that lifetime value is so important to know.
And I just read a blog post on your blog this week, Joe, about direct mail. Is too small? How small is too small for for direct mail? So I just put that link in the chat for everyone. And I think that might answer some questions. Heather and Jennings, I know, are struggling with not even necessarily having addresses for everyone. So kind of dealing with that question. What's the minimum number that can make a mailing campaign worth the expense in your mind?
So there's two answers to that question. There's the matter of how much does it. You can mail one piece. Anybody can mail one piece through any organization that you want. You can do it yourself. But the one piece is going to be the most expensive piece you do. The first piece in any production process is always the most expensive. For in the appeal maker system, one of the things that we aimed toward was giving people an opportunity that had small mailing lists to actually do mail. And so we even do thank you mailings for some clients where we're literally sending 4, 5, 6 pieces of mail at a time. It is expensive, but in the pricing that we have set up is still very, very economical at those lower numbers. So, I mean, it's a few dollars a piece, probably at, numbers of 5 or 6, but the price per piece drops pretty quickly. If you want to do a direct mail campaign to your donor base, not all donor bases are equal in terms of their potential, but we have lots of customers that have 500 donors, and they do mailings to 500 donors. That's very, very, very common.
That's good. That's helpful. I'm reading through a lot of the questions, and they're all kind of similar there. Audience size and such. So thank you for that.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
I am looking at the question, and I want to answer it a little more in detail, because I just read it. It says the minimum number it takes to make a campaign worth the expense. There's a variable in there from an algebraic standpoint. It depends on how much your average gift is, and the donor base you're working with will probably tell you what you could expect. So if you got one, if you spent $500 and you got one gift for $1,000, then yes, that would be worth it.
Honestly, I've I guess another strategy hack or something like that for VIP donors for an organization we worked with before. We hand wrote an appeal letter. It was time. It was a note card with a first class stamp and a reply envelope inserted with a return stamp on it. So I considered it a high value piece because it was limited quantity, limited production, and those performed for us very well too. So if you have a small donor database and you have the time and capacity to really customize something like that, I think it could perform very well for you.
Absolutely.
Because that is really person to person, because your handwriting, now you can write the same thing in all 10 cards or something. But Yeah.
And Cara, that flows really nicely into this question, which is a big question. So I'd love for this person to follow up with us at academy@donorbox.org. But this flows really nicely into stewardship. So someone asked, can you explain more about stewardship? We could have a whole webinar on stewardship.
Yeah, we should. We absolutely should.
We absolutely should. But what Cara just said about that personal touch and taking the time, committing the time to your donor base, that is a part of stewardship. So that worked out perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. And yes, let's do a webinar on stewardship. Stewardship combined is thanking and showing impact, which you should do after a gift is received. But you can all, I say sprinkle those in throughout your communications and content calendar so that you are appropriately thanking and showing impact before you're asking. And when you do a good job at thanking and showing impact, that ask is much easier. We are at the top of the hour, but I saw many people, and there's still a few more questions I know out there, but I wanted to share this with people before if you have to fall off at the top of the hour. Several of you mentioned that you struggle with copy and writing the content, and writing for a fundraising appeal doesn't make sense. It breaks a lot of rules that you learned in school, and what works is it's tricky. It's almost a puzzle. And so because of that, we have created for you an appeal writing course. And this is just an on-demand course. It's called Asks That Engage. And it's for writing fundraising appeals that you can use now at year end or throughout the course of the year. And we break down a little bit of the art and a little bit of the science on what works and what doesn't. And how we deliver that to you is we have on-demand bite-sized instruction that is designed not to overwhelm you. We have some best practices checklists in there, real-life examples to show you what works and what doesn't. We provide for you an appeal writing workbook with actual templates for a mailed appeal, an email appeal, and social media follow-ups. So you'll take your core messaging and then syndicate it through email and social media too. That'll reinforce that mailing message. We provide for you a sample content calendar and then tips and tricks for scheduling those mailings so that they go out on time, including direct mail, which you do need to budget in a nice chunk of time to get that mailer out so that it arrives in mailboxes before the year-end crazy rush. So that appeal writing course is available for you. Jena just launched that link. It's $49, which I think is well worth the teaching, the investment. And the first 20 people to register will get their appeal letter reviewed and provide some feedback on how to improve and get it ready to go out the door. So that will be for the first 20 people who register today.
Excellent.
And for questions, you can, we'll put it in the chat. I think maybe, I think I saw Cara and Emily on the call. If you could put in academy@donorbox.org is how to reach us with questions. And to find out more about courses, or if you want to take a deeper dive past the appeal writing into creating a year-end appeal, you can find that at academy.donorbox.org.
And we see it there in the chat. Well, thanks for that, Cara with a C and then Cara with a K as well. I can say that both Caras have taught me so much in this world. I have learned so much from them, and I'm really excited for any and all of you to learn from them as well. I know that it's going to be a really great course, and I'm excited to take it. So thank you for that. We are at the top of the hour. I know we have a bunch of questions that we did not get to. And I want to make sure that you are directed in the right way so that we can get those questions answered. So you can reach out to us at academy@donorbox.org. And Joe, where would be the best place to guide people to you?
I think if you just, the easiest places to go, if you like to do chat, is to go to our website, appealmaker.com, and chat. There's a support link there as well. And, the link, I don't know if you can show the link again for the sign up, but you can book a meeting feel free to book any kind of a meeting at that link if you want. If you just want to talk to me for 15 minutes and pick my brain and steal everything I got and put it to good use, I'm game.
Excellent.
So,
And I understand some people need to get off to get to their next meeting or event, but I'm willing to hang out for another 5 minutes or so if we want to work through some more questions.
Cool.
How about you guys?
I'm down. I'm game.
Okay.
and I'm okay
Cool.
with that too.
All right. Well,
Thank you all. Thanks for spending an hour with us.
Yes. For those of you who are hopping off, I want to thank you so much for joining us and for all that you do, for all the people that you serve, and keep an eye out for the recording. And you can always reach out to us at those links that we just dropped in the chat. And for those of you who are staying, thank you. We've got time for just a few more. We don't want to take advantage of Joe's time for too long, but where should we go next, you guys? It's kind of been rapid fire. We have so many great questions. So let's see here. I love this question, actually, and this should be a speedy one. Amy asked, when is the ideal time to send out an annual newsletter?
Joe, you want me to answer or you want to?
I think, I can say from experience
Yeah.
what most of our clients
Go for it.
do, but you go ahead. I think.
Well, why don't you
got
give
more.
your answer first and then I'll answer something. I'll let you know if it's something different in my mind.
So obviously once the year's wrapped up and you have time to gather everything together, we have them going out generally the middle to the end of January and all the way into February.
I would say yes, especially if it's an annual impact piece. However, if you have time now to send even a small impact piece, I think it would be good. It would be a good primer for the year-end fundraising season. We know people are most generous at year-end, and I think if you can show that impact and get in their minds now, they might remember you at year-end.
Yep, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for that question and for those answers. All right, y'all, I am taking your lead here. Make sure we're picking out the ones that will speak to the most people. So I am combing through this one. So this is from Natalie. How do you feel about featuring anchor business donors, challenging recipients to join them in the appeal?
Yeah, challenge campaigns are a great idea. If you have a partner who's willing to do a match campaign, a challenge campaign, the match campaigns are fantastic in every regard. Your anchor organization or business gets tremendous value. So psychologically, they feel like for every dollar they give, they're giving another dollar, right? And so it's I shouldn't say easy, but there's just a lot of value to that organization, and to the donor, they're giving a dollar, which is triggering another dollar. So both parties feel like they're getting, the double bang for their buck, so to speak.
And in my experience, they've proven very effective as well.
Excellent. So Heather, if you're still on, you asked, can you speak to that hack and why you think that's effective? And I want to know which hack you're talking about. I think it may be the name above the logo. I think that's when your question came in, but I want to confirm. And if you're not on, then we'll reach out to you. All right. So what other questions do we have in here? Oh, here. So Jessica asked, following up to the question we just had, is this anchor through direct mail?
Yeah, so a challenge campaign, you can convey that message through a number of mediums, including direct mail. The idea is that you have a campaign, you have a challenge campaign, or you have a match campaign, and direct mail is incredibly effective on those campaigns because you are speaking one-to-one. You can give the background of why the business, was up for the challenge and how they see the value of the organization. It's an easy, very personal way to do it, but it doesn't have to be.
Well, and then, we know the old marketing adage, people need to hear things. How many times? Put it in the chat. 7, right?
Yeah.
And so when you reinforce that message through direct mail and then social media and then email, they're hearing and seeing that challenge. They're seeing some social engagement, and they need to be reminded to get engaged. It often seems like a lot to you because you're seeing all of it. Very rarely do all of your constituents see everything that you share. So remember that they're not seeing nearly as much as you are. So reinforce that message consistently over your campaign.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Cara. And go ahead.
Go ahead.
Nope, go for it.
I saw James had a question that I wanted to answer.
Oh, thank you.
Our donor data is all over the board with details they provide. So I'm assuming, I know Jennings is in the same boat. She shared that with us. Some people just provide email. Some people have good mailing addresses, but no email address. So would you recommend a survey being sent out to the donors with emails to provide more details? I think that could be good. As personal as you can make it, the better. And I offered this suggestion in our 30 days to the year-end campaign masterclass yesterday. What I think I would recommend is reaching out and saying, hey, we would love to send you a holiday card, or we have something to send you, and just want to make sure you're included. Would you please provide us your mailing address? That way, and then follow up and send them a holiday card or a postcard or something that just says thanks, or, we appreciate you. And then that way you're acquiring the email or the mailing address. Vice versa, you could do it the other way and email too. And with Joe, and he showed us that visual of the return slip. If you don't have an email address for someone, plan your return slip so that at least there's a blank line there and they can write in their email address if you have their mailing address.
Yeah, and getting permission for numbers for texting was, at first people were like, no. But that's starting to pick up too, where people are actually saying, yeah, I'd rather have that than email.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you know this is information that you're going to need, you're sending things through direct mail. Well, with Donorbox especially, you can select what fields you have your donors fill out when they make a donation. Of course, include only what's necessary, because you don't want to create a barrier to complete that donation. But if you know for a fact you're going to be sending direct mail, you want to send those things that they can physically have in their hands to feel connected to you, then ask for their address right there. And then, of course, ask for the email address so that they can get an instant thank you, right? So try to think ahead, and you can customize your donation form with Donorbox to do that for you as well.
So I think we should end on this question, Jena. Joe, I'm gonna let you take this one.
Yeah. So I'll read it out.
Loaded question.
What organization is best to use for direct mail marketing / fundraising? And if you say appeal maker, why? Joe, this is your moment.
Yeah. So I won't say that appeal maker is going to be for everybody. I feel like we provide a really easy way that shrinks the timeline down for campaigns. It starts with best foot forward approaches. So particularly for new, young, smaller organizations, the value is just exponential for that. Truly, if you are a huge organization mailing, and have the capacity to mail hundreds of thousands of pieces of mail, I don't know of anybody particularly, but there's lots of great direct mail companies out there that specialize. They're printers that have all of the mailing equipment, and they may have some other value added services to go along with that. Hard question to answer.
Well, and if you would like to share a little bit with us as well about the size of your mailings, what you're looking for, the size of your organization, or book a call with Joe. The link is still down there in the bottom left. I'm sure that you can learn a little bit more as well. All right. Well, we had a lot of questions from all across. Sorry, my eyes just pinged because I saw peer-to-peer, which is my favorite in the whole entire world. So sorry, I got distracted there. I think we are going to leave it at that all. Again, if you have any questions, if we didn't get to yours, if we missed it somehow, please reach out to us at academy@donorbox.org. You can also visit appealmaker.com. Those links are in the chat. And they are in the chat again. We also have the 15-minute consultation link live in the bottom left-hand corner. Again, thank you for staying with us past the hour. We had too much fun. And I knew this was going to be a hot topic with lots of questions. Joe, I want to thank you for just sharing everything that you've got in your brain so candidly, and your expertise and your unique perspective. I especially like thinking about walking on the left side of the road now. I don't think I'll think of anything any differently now, but I want to thank you both. I want to thank you all for all that you do to serve others, and we'll see you at the next one.